Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark, and also right next to me at the moment, Elvis as well. I'll just move the camera down so maybe you can see him lying there by my side. So in this episode, I'm going to do another tag. I was tagged yesterday by Gina Stania, and she tagged me in a sense of place, my neck of the woods tag. And this is quite an interesting one for me, actually. I'm always trying to, my neck of the woods has changed quite a bit in my life. I think I've said in previous videos that although I'm English by birth, or British by birth, I have spent two-thirds of my life away from the United Kingdom. I grew up in Bermuda and Sweden before returning to the UK for a bit. And then, I went off to university and whatnot. I studied German, so I went off to Germany for a year or so. And then when I finished my master's degree, I went to work in Japan to teach English, and I stayed there for a few years before moving on to Hong Kong. Then back to the UK, then back to Japan, and then back to the UK again, and then finally to the Czech Republic and my current neck of the woods. So I will explain a little bit how the so-called concept of neck of the woods works here in the Czech Republic. It's probably like anywhere. Most of you are probably familiar, of course, with Prague, the capital city. I don't live there. I live about 2 hours northeast of Prague by car. I live in the Královéhradecký Kraj, so it means the Královéhradecký state, and the state capital, if you like, is the city of Hradec Králové, and this, for history fans, is the current name of the old German named city of Königgrätz. And then from there we move down to like district level, and I live in the district of Náchod, or Old Crest Náchod, which is right on the border with Poland. And I live in a town, I don't know how many kilometers it is, maybe 8 kilometers from there, called Novi Město nad Metují, which some of you, if you've seen my earlier videos where I did a brief tour of the town, you can see a bit of it. It's a lovely town here of around 9,000 inhabitants, and one English teacher. Well, no, actually there's more now, but it's the only one that matters. I'm only joking. Okay, so I'll start talking first about my immediate vicinity, my immediate neck of the woods, the town of Hradec Králové, and any books to do with that. Well, to be honest, I don't know many books that would be set or have anything to do with this particular town. Now, in the Czech language, there probably are some. Excuse me, I'm going to just move the camera because the light keeps changing. Maybe that would be better. Yeah, so there probably are some in Czech literature. Apart from, for example, I have a picture book, but this is more related to the region of Náchod. But of course, as this is one of the probably the second town of this particular region, it features quite heavily within this book. The town itself is around 500 years old, and you can see, I'll show you a picture of it from the air because this is what the book specializes in. So this is the town center where I live. You can actually see, almost see my house, which is kind of just behind this building here, which is the town hall for the town of Novi Město nad Metují. This is our main square, which has restaurants, shops, cafes, etc., which is a nice place to hang out in non-COVID times, of course. I do have one book that centers on the history aspect of this town, and I would say it's quite an important aspect. And before I move on about it, I'm going to show you another video in a second, which will kind of introduce it to you. And first of all, I just want to apologize for the poor quality and the shakiness, because I was walking Elvis at the time, and there's a part in it where I accidentally stepped on his foot, so I apologize for that. But yes, have a look at this short video and then I'll be back. There's Elvis. We're out for our walk and just looking at the town war memorial here, and it fits in with what I wanted to talk about in this My Neck of the Woods video. The monument itself is for the 1914 to 1918 war, and the interesting thing about it is that in that first part, on that wall there, although you can't see it very clearly and I don't want to get too close, it lists the names of, maybe I can zoom in and see some of them there. It's the names of soldiers who died in the First World War. However, on the other wall, on the other wall are those who died in the Second World War. And if you can see there, they're actually full families, not just soldiers. So it makes you think, doesn't it? I would say. Okay, so as you can see, I showed you the war memorial in town, commemorating the Great War, and those who died. And of course I just mentioned that the soldiers are all listed, of people who died from the town during the Great War, and then the other wall shows people who died during the Second World War. And of course there wasn't much fighting in Czechoslovakia during the Second World War itself, and most of the people, I think almost all the people you'll see on that wall, are civilians, and they are Jews. And this is quite striking for me because, you know, I come from England, and I'm sure it's probably the same for those of you in North America, that our war memorials are almost always military personnel. Of course, this town was occupied, and the Jewish population was rounded up. And that brings me to the one book I have really relating to the town, which is in English. It would be translated as Not Only a Name on a Monument, and it's a book about the Jews of Nowe Miasto na Mytwy and the immediate area. And so the names that you can see on that monument, it's quite shocking for me. I can't remember if I was given the book or lent the book. I might have to find that out, because I probably have to return it if I was lent it, because I've had it a good while. Haven't been able to read it properly because it is in Czech, but what's shocking, as I say, is you see the names on the memorial, and then you can actually look at the faces that go with the names and the life stories that go with the names in this book. And it's really quite something, because, you know, when you look at the memorial and you see the names, and there's more than one name, so you realize they're husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, parents and children, who were going about their normal lives. And then, of course, the outside world interferes, and you know, they end up being rounded up. And, you know, I just showed you in that one book, the picture book, the town hall. Gosh, I should have put a bookmark in here, shouldn't I? The town hall, which is near where I live, just in front of where I live. And in this book, what was quite shocking to me was you can see the same building during the occupation. I think this is taken in 1939, and you have quite clearly the Nazi flag flying from that building. However, at the time, I think it wasn't the town hall, but a factory. But even so, it's still quite shocking to see it. And you can see the same war memorial that you just saw in that video there. And, you know, what's really striking when you see these people, you know, these local Jewish people, and you see the names, and you read a bit about their life stories, or try to, as I say, because unfortunately I don't really understand everything. But I do understand when I see a date such as 1944, and I see the name Osvětim. And Osvětim is the Czech name for Auschwitz. So yeah, it's pretty moving, but that's certainly a book I would say that's important to my neck of the woods, to the history of my neck of the woods, and to the town, of course, of Nowe Miasto na Mytwy here in Eastern Bohemia. If I move out onto less serious subject, if I move out into what we call the district, the Old Crest, then there are a few books that the town does crop up in, or has some kind of literary relationship. So if we go to a small village called Ratiborzice, there's a castle there, or chateau, beautiful pink chateau, and the town next to that is one called Česká Skalica, and this is the place where one of the most famous Czech female writers of the 19th century spent her childhood, Božena Němcová, and she is very famous for writing a book called The Grandmother, which most children here read at some point in their lives. And if you go to this place, Ratiborzice, there is Babičino Údolí, which is like the grandmother's valley, and there's some monuments to that, and the grandmother's house and this kind of stuff. So it's a very poignant book about rural life, I suppose, in early 19th century Bohemia, and so that's linked strongly to this area. We also have a link through the author. I don't know if any of you know him here, Josef Skvořecký. He's a local boy. He was born in the town of Náchod, so the district capital I've just mentioned, and he writes this book. I think it's set in it says Kostelec. I haven't read it yet. I think it's Červený Kostelec, which is also around here, and this is a book about a jazz band that formed in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War. And there's a nice little bit on the back here where it says, Benno blew a long note and it sounded hard and very sure, so I stopped worrying about him losing his tone while he was in the concentration camp. He hadn't. So again, that links in with the earlier book as well. Skvořecký actually was a slave labourer in Nazi Germany during the Second World War. When he came back, he managed to complete a PhD in Charles University, which is like the Ivy League or style university here in the Czech Republic. And he wrote this book, which was immediately banned. And I think in the 60s, he left Czechoslovakia during the Prague Spring, or before the invasion from the Warsaw Pact countries, and he spent the rest of his days in Canada, where he opened a publishing house to print subversive and banned Czech literature that was against the communist regime of the days. So that's one nice link as well. Another link is more modern, actually, and it happened to be in a series which I really enjoy, which is the Station series by David Downing, and these are all books. I think there are 6 of them set. First off, I think there's Zoo Stations set in Berlin just at the beginning of the Second World War, and then they follow through the course of the Second World War into the immediate post-war years, following the adventures of an Anglo-American writer, journalist called John Russell, and his actress girlfriend, Effie Kern. And these are wonderful books, if you like, these kind of almost Cold War vibe style books, espionage and adventure. And they all center around different train stations. Something happens there, and that's a pivotal thing for the book. And in the 5th one, Leerta station, Náchod is mentioned, and I was very surprised when I read that, because I was sitting here just a few kilometers away. I know the town well, and I'll read you a little bit what he says there. In the morning, their one-coach train wheezed its way up through the snow-strewn foothills, arriving in Náchod soon after 9. The small town seemed unmarked by the war, but appearances were clearly deceptive. According to Albert, only 20 of its 300 Jews had survived, and it was 2 of these, Moshe Roshman and Yehuda Lipman, who had turned Náchod into a staging post for the Jews now fleeing Poland. So the concept in this is that there was almost like an underground railway, I would say, that you had in America with the slaves escaping from the South. This was post-war, but the Jews couldn't just emigrate to Palestine. So there was also this network, apparently, that stretched from the Baltic all the way through Central Europe down towards, heading off towards the Middle East, which smuggled or helped Jewish refugees and survivors from concentration camps find their way to Palestine. And apparently Nakhod was one of these staging posts. Now, I've only got this from this book, and this is, if you like, a historical fiction, so I don't know. I haven't really been able to look much into it yet, but I would like to. But I like to think that it's true, and I'd like to think that that town had some kind of pivotal role in this important thing. And then moving into our wider state, again, I don't actually know too much about books that are set in Kralovo-Hradecki Krai, or the Hradec-Kralova region, except if you're a history buff. Now, I would say that any book that talks about the 7 Weeks' War or the Austro-Prussian War, in fact, there is a book called The 7 Weeks' War, and Königgrätz, of course, is there because it was the major battle of this war between Austria and Prussia, where Austria was defeated. And then the Prussians themselves, when they invaded Austria, which of course this area was part of at some time, they came all through this area. They invaded from Náchod, they came through to Česká Skalica, which I mentioned before. Even around this town there were pitched battles and things like that. We have a monument in our cemetery to this war as well. It's something that I didn't know much about, and I actually had to start learning a bit about it this year because I teach not only English conversation now, I teach parts of different subjects in English. So, for example, one history lesson, kids have 2 history lessons every week, and 20 to 25 minutes of one of those lessons is conducted in English. They have to learn, of course, by law, they have to learn the subject in Czech first, but then 25 minutes will be spent talking about that subject in English. And this year we had the Austro-Prussian War, and I had to do some reading for it. And it was amazing to me to just see how much of it, of course, was around here. And it's something I'd like to look into more. Anyway, I've rambled again too much, but that's kind of what I came up with to be able to talk about my neck of the woods using books. And I can't really say literature. There's only really one literature style book that's in there. Most of the rest are non-fiction or picture books. Anyway, the last thing I'm supposed to do for this is to tag 3 people. And I'm not sure if they've done it, but I'm going to tag them and hopefully they can do it. Of course, there's no pressure if they can't. And of course, anyone else can do it as well who's watching this. But I'll tag Sina at Beating Around the Books, Daniel at Guilty Feet, and Duncan McCurdy. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks again to Gina for tagging me. This was a very interesting tag. I enjoyed doing it, and it's also inspired me now to try and find out more about my neck of the woods as well. And I believe it was Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading who maybe was the originator of this. I'm not sure, but certainly that's where Gina got it from. So thanks again. I wish you all the best, and see you all again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.